out, everybody.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Lights Out, the #1 paranormal podcast in the world.
Hell yeah.
Pumping us up today.
Nice.
You like that?
I like this energy.
We're actually an award-winning podcast. We can say that.
That is true.
We have actually won awards.
When I introduce myself, I say I'm an award-winning podcast.
Do you really? I was like,
No,
damn,
not.
I should start doing that. People are like, huh? Most people think, podcasting is just a dude sitting alone in his room in front of a microphone, which is true for a lot of podcasts. But here, we're doing something totally different, totally elevated.
Yeah. This isn't your grandma's
in a haunted
podcast.
Studio.
Yeah, true.
Oh, we got to get Annabelle in here. People have missed Annabelle.
Should we move her?
We should bring her in for this one. I feel like this is an appropriate episode for her.
Yeah. Also, there's like 3 dead moths over here.
We have a graveyard of moths here in the Lights Out studio. It's that time of year in Colorado, and we just get an infestation of these moths. Quite disgusting. There we go. She's back. She's just been... Yeah, don't judge his handling here. She can be kind of hard to get into position.
Yeah, Annabelle. She's an unwieldy gal.
She is. She's quite feisty sometimes.
Yeah.
But she is joining us for this episode because it's only appropriate whenever we talk about cursed bunk beds that we bring in our favorite doll. But yeah, welcome back to Lights Out. I'm your host, Josh.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Daniel.
We are back with another paranormal episode for you. We're just going to keep it coming because we love it, you guys love it, and there's just endless stories.
Yeah, at one point we were worried we were going to run out of paranormal content, but no, you just dig a little deeper and it's endless.
And you find some really good stuff.
Yeah.
Like today's episode is going to be on the Tallman family haunting, and it revolves around some cursed bunk beds, which out of everything in this universe that could be cursed, I just want to know who the hell decided to curse some bunk beds. That's some evil shit.
Yeah. And we don't really know the exact origins of these bunk beds. So I mean, you just get your imagination running on why and who.
Just a vindictive little brother.
Yeah.
It's just doing...
I wanted the top bunk.
God. The Tallman family in 1986 move into a home, and, they have 2 daughters, and they purchase these bunk beds, and basically all hell breaks loose. I mean, some scary shit goes down, and lots and lots of activity. I think you'll be a little bit surprised at just how crazy this story gets. But yeah, I just can't wrap my head around who's the evil person that decided to curse some bunk beds, full well knowing that usually it's children sleeping in bunk beds.
True. That's a good point.
So who's this
evil.
person? Who's this crazy? I mean, if it is a person, maybe there's something else going on, but I don't know. It's just absolutely insane to me because they bring these bunk beds in and then boom. It's like
all hell.
Portal to hell opens up and shit gets really wild. But before we get into the episode, I did want to just briefly plug the merch. There's still, our shirts are still available, the long sleeve, the bison ritual sleeve, as well as our candle tee, I think is what we're calling it, is still available. Blankets are on order. They take a little while to get in, but as soon as they're in, I'll definitely let you know because I know so many of you are wanting to get your hands on one of those because they're truly amazing. I mean, it's probably my favorite thing we've created here at Lights Out.
Same, hands down.
It's going to come in clutch for our camping trip we got going on this weekend.
True, yeah, I should definitely bring it.
It seems like perfect place to take it.
Yeah.
We can lay it out and then do a little Ouija board on it. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into this story because it is a wild one. So in 1986, Alan and Deborah Tallman, and she went by Debbie, which I think we'll be referring to her as Debbie throughout this episode. But they moved into a 3-bedroom home on Larrabee Street in Horicon, Wisconsin, At the time, the area was mostly a farming community with under 3,000 residents, so pretty small town. And they bought a house with a low-interest Farmers Home Administration loan. The house was perfect for their growing family. 7-year-old Danny and 2-year-old Marianne each would have a room to themselves at the new house. Debbie was also pregnant with a third child named Sarah. Now, I do want to note that the family does not want their real children's names out there, and they've never released it as far as I know. So these are all pseudonyms for their children. So as part of this housing project, 10 houses had just been built in the neighborhood, and they had been built on a plot of marshland once used by local teens for getting drunk. But then modest houses with dead-end streets and no sidewalks filled the new growing neighborhood. A railroad cut through backyards, and a single gas station sat on the main road that led into town. The Tallmans fit right into this new neighborhood. All they wanted was a quiet, peaceful life where they could work and raise their children, and they were proud because this was the first home they've ever owned. And the goal was to pay off the rest of the mortgage before they retired. I mean, I think that's pretty much all of our end goals here when it comes to buying a home. But during the buying process, they discovered that the previous owners had only lived in the brand new house for 18 months. Luckily, no major renovations or updates were needed, but still the Tallmans made the house their own with a few new coats of paint, decorations, and furniture. Not long after moving in, Debbie and Alan found a set of bunk beds at a secondhand store for $100. And seeing that they only had 3 bedrooms and with another child on the way, they would soon have 5 family members. So they figured the girls would share a room in a few years, so they stored the bunk beds in their basement until that time came.
Very unsuspecting bunk beds.
No, I mean, this story really starts out just like an...
Really wholesome.
Yeah, very wholesome, like a Hallmark movie almost.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
It's just like they move into this peaceful town. It's all good. They're buying their first home and starting their family.
Everything's looking up.
Yeah.
But then things start getting a little weird. As they worked on settling in, they hardly noticed the change the entire family was going through. The family members started getting sick one after the next, and both Danny and Marianne began missing school and visiting the hospital when their illnesses worsened. Before moving into the house, they had rarely been sick, and Debbie kind of just figured that this sickness had been going around their new schools maybe. You know, I know there's a lot of things with like immune systems when you move to a new area. You might have to adjust, but Marianne specifically caught chicken pox, an ear infection, and several colds one after the next, and this was all within a few months of moving there. Even Alan developed severe back pain, which would make him bedridden some days. Debbie and Alan thought something in the house might have been causing them all to get sick. Was it contaminated paint? Was it something in the walls or the furnace? Was it something just in the air? I don't know. So they ended up calling a building inspector to check out the house, but they didn't find any asbestos, toxic gases, or any unusual substances. Everything seemed to be up to code and safe.
I mean, the house is practically new.
Yeah, it was only built a few years ago. So yeah, nothing unsafe there. After the house had been declared officially safe, Alan became more unsettled in the house at night. He could kind of just feel something was off, but he couldn't exactly point out the source. He complained of feeling itchy and jittery sometimes. He began losing his temper often, and he even began binge drinking throughout the week. Debbie and the children had never seen this kind of behavior in Alan before. He was often a calm, loving husband and father, but something in this house had caused him to change. Debbie thought Alan's angst and destructive behavior seemed to stem from the house itself or from something inside it. Even some of their guests who stepped foot inside the house claimed they could feel the atmosphere was off. And the Tallmans were close with their friends and family. Guests were pretty common in the house at first, but they noticed as time went on, really no one wanted to spend time at the Tallmans anymore. Their new, exciting home had now become a place of just illness and despair and bad moods. So during a routine checkup for Debbie's pregnancy, the doctor noted that her placenta was in the wrong position. This is also known as placenta previa. And on doctor's orders, Debbie was supposed to relax and do as little as possible at the home. So her mother ended up coming by almost every day for 3 months straight to help cook and clean and take care of the children. Eventually, Debbie gave birth to a healthy child named Sarah. One day after Sarah was born and Debbie had returned to the house, Debbie's mother took her aside. Now that Debbie wasn't at risk of any more pregnancy complications, her mother could finally relieve some stress she had been carrying for the last few months. She told Debbie that she couldn't stomach being in the house any longer. It had just been eating away at her. She knew it was irrational, but she just couldn't stand it. She constantly felt on edge, nauseous, suffocated. She admitted, she loved the house. She thought it was beautiful. She knew it was an ideal place that they could raise their family, but she just had to admit that whenever she got away from the place, the more she could relax and feel normal again. Debbie's sister also felt the same and confirmed these exact same emotions and feelings. Confused, Debbie kind of just shrugged it off. She's like, look, I got to focus on raising my family. I have a newborn. This is a lot to take in. Whatever. You guys can leave. You're not really needed anymore.
So they're just experiencing bad vibes at this point, or feeling some sort of like bad energy or something?
Yeah, and some light medical problems, but that could also be a coincidence. You could write it off as.
Right. So, because the medical issues to me don't seem to be like too crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like doesn't make sense whatsoever. I mean,
right.
I do find it a little bit interesting that Alan's kind of all of a sudden having, binge drinking. And if he's never done that before, that's a little strange, but could have been just adjusting to the new neighborhood.
Stress.
Maybe he's feuding with somebody they don't know about, or just stress of all of that and having a baby.
Right. That's a big change. Yeah.
So it could just be something like that, but maybe it's something else. I don't know.
Yeah. So you could write it off as just kind of a lot going on at this point. But one night, Alan and Debbie decided to have a date night, just the two of them. And after finding a babysitter, they headed to their favorite local restaurant, and they just had a great time together. It was the first time in a very long time that they finally didn't feel stressed or sick, but those feelings would immediately return the minute they got home. Their babysitter met them at the door. She was out of breath. She had a strange look in her eyes, and she explained what had just happened earlier in the night. She and Danny had been sitting at the kitchen table playing a board game earlier in the evening, and in the middle of the game, they both heard a soft tapping noise. Nothing out of the ordinary, but the tapping noise, they noticed it kept getting louder until it was eventually like a banging noise. And they both watched as the chair at the opposite end of the kitchen table was rocking back and forth, slamming its legs on the ground. Then it lifted off the ground, slammed back down before shifting away from the table, and then suddenly it just stopped. Both Danny and the babysitter freaked out. Babysitter was eventually able to calm herself and Danny before putting him to bed, and luckily the house was pretty quiet after that. There was no strange activity. When the Tallmans returned home and the babysitter told them what had happened, they were concerned. It's a strange thing, but they really didn't even believe her. They paid the babysitter for her time, and they dropped her off at home later that night. When they later asked Danny what had happened during the board game, he gave them the same story the babysitter did. But still, they kind of just shrugged it off. They figured maybe it was a prank, and one of them might have moved the chair with their foot under the table, kind of causing a stir. I could get that, watching some little kids and wanting to mess with them a little bit.
But why would the babysitter tell the parents that?
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was fucking with your kid while we were playing Monopoly, making him think the chair was on it.
Maybe Danny was so distressed that she wanted to kind of cover her tracks a little bit. Like, oh, it was just meant as a prank, but he got a little more distressed. I don't know.
Could be. Or the board game they were playing was the Ouija board.
Oh, there's
shit,
I didn't think about that.
What if they were playing the Ouija board and shit goes haywire?
True.
And she's trying to, cover it up a little bit. But, I don't know. If I was a parent and I came home or I am a parent, Jesus. If I did come home and the babysitter was like, oh yeah, I was playing a board game with your daughter, and all of a sudden the chair at the end of the table just started smashing on the ground, banging all by itself. I'd be like, okay, well, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know what to do with that information, really. Would you investigate? Would you try and?
Yeah, go get the ghost hunting equipment out. We're doing an investigation right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you're still unsure of what's going on, you just be like, okay, and you're probably tired, like, whatever, like, shut up, let's get you home.
Right, yeah.
You know, like,
That
I don't
might
want to
be
hear
the-
about this nonsense right now.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that maybe, you know, maybe they were playing with the Ouija board. We don't know what game they were playing, so
True.
you never know.
They didn't specify.
Could be Hungry Hippos or...
Also a demonic game.
Yes, exactly. How closely do you comb through your bank statements and credit card history? Are you coming through every single charge on a regular basis, or just assume everything is fine until you notice something weird? Honestly, I don't have time to watch my accounts that closely, but now that I'm using Rocket Money, it does all that for me, so I don't have to worry about it. I've been using Rocket Money for a while now. I even pay for the premium version of the app because I love it that much. But Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, it monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. And with Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. What's great is that Rocket Money finds all those subscriptions, lists them all out for you, and with a few taps, they will actually cancel those subscriptions on your behalf. One of the best features about Rocket Money, I think, is the fact that they will try and negotiate to lower your bills by up to 20%. All you have to do is submit a picture of your bill and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They'll even deal with the customer service for you. Absolutely love it. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, including myself, and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. I recommend it to everybody because I think even the free version is worth downloading and setting up. And I guarantee you'll love it so much that you'll be willing to pay a little bit more to get the rest of the features. It is just so easy to use. The dashboard shows you everything you want to know about your spending, expenses, upcoming bills when they're due. It just takes all the thinking out of managing your finances. Plus, you'll save a ton of money using it. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/lightsout. That's rocketmoney.com/lightsout. Let them know we sent you at rocketmoney.com/lightsout. Months passed and nothing out of the ordinary happened. But soon Sarah was almost old enough to sleep in a bed of her own, and Debbie and Alan agreed that they would need to move bedrooms around since Sarah was eventually going to outgrow her crib. So they decided to move Danny into the smallest bedroom, and Sarah and Marianne moved into the largest one. Alan and Debbie figured it was finally time to move that old second-hand set of bunk beds up from the basement and into the girls' bedroom. Danny got settled into his new room, and he had set up his old clock radio on his nightstand. He always used it as white noise so he could fall asleep with the radio on. There was a sleep timer that would turn it off after a while, but the first night in his new bedroom, he noticed the radio would randomly switch channels. And he complained about this to his mom, but she figured, oh, it's probably just an electrical problem, which I'm like, I don't know how radios work, but I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, they're just kind of chalking up to like just malfunctioning or something. So they reset the clock radio and Danny went to bed again. But minutes later, after everyone had returned to their beds for the night, Debbie heard Danny crying in his room. She went to check on him and he said it happened again. But this time he actually witnessed the dials on the clock radio turning on their own. It's pretty creepy, man.
Yeah, and that's not an electrical problem.
No,
that's not how that works.
Something is physically moving the dials at that point. Danny wasn't known to have sleep problems and he wasn't known to lie. And when Debbie and Alan talked it over privately, they considered that maybe Danny was still adjusting after their big move. He had been sick on and off, and he was the new kid at school, and he had just switched bedrooms, so maybe all that change was just affecting him in some way, but he still didn't know how to communicate his frustration properly. So it's like, they're kind of like, he's a kid, he's going through a lot, maybe just kind of like seeing things, making things up. Or he's doing it.
It's like a cry for attention a little bit, possibly.
Yeah.
And like having a new sister in the house, maybe he's feeling a little neglected, things like that.
Yeah, good point. But these outbursts continued. And one night, Danny ran from his bedroom screaming. He claimed the suitcase stored under his bed had shot out across his bedroom floor and returned to its original position on its own, which you can just imagine what that must have been like. Like you're laying in bed and then your suitcase just flies out from underneath the bed. Like, what the? And then it goes back under. Oh, that's there's probably so many horror movies out there with a scene like that.
Yeah, true.
Something from under the bed flying out.
It's always under the bed, too.
It's always where they hide. But Debbie and Alan didn't believe him. They thought this was just more acting out. And as the nights went on, Danny kept claiming the radio dials turned and the suitcase moved on its own. Eventually, Debbie and Alan got sick of the outbursts and were like, all right, well, let's remove the things that are causing the issue. Yeah. No more radio clock. And we're going to move the suitcase out of his room. Of course, this didn't solve the bigger problem that was looming inside of the home. If anything, more strange activity began happening after removing the clock radio in the suitcase. Even Marianne and Sarah began waking up at all hours of the night, kicking and screaming. All the children complained of hearing strange noises inside the walls, tapping and scratching. Mice?
Possibly.
Scratching? I've heard that before.
Yeah, in the walls, that's a common area.
And guess what it was?
Mice?
A mouse.
Yeah.
Because I ended up catching that guy. But maybe it's not. Some nights, Debbie and Alan would get into bed and they'd hear Marianne's voice through the wall. It would sound like she was conversing with someone in her bedroom, like she was sleep talking. And when Debbie would check on her, Marianne claimed she wasn't sleep talking at all. She was genuinely talking to someone in the room. She described them as a witch with red eyes that hid behind the bedroom door.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I would be concerned. I'd be like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah. When I was a kid, witches were the scariest thing, in my opinion. Like, I always think of the Sleeping Beauty witch. She
terrified me too.
So scary.
Honestly, some of those movies are scary, man. Snow White, terrifying.
Yeah. That witch was coming.
Eat this apple.
The rotten apple.
I would have nightmares about witches, though. They just creeped me out.
Yeah. Which there's a lot of beautiful witches out there. They're not all creepy.
True.
Some gorgeous witches. But, as a kid, you only see the ugly ones.
Mm-hmm.
How come they never show you the beautiful witches? It's always a scary one. It's always like a big scraggly nose with like giant zits on it.
Always. It's always the
creepy
big
eyes,
mole.
black, like greasy hair.
Yeah. Yep. Let me look up. What did the Snow White? I'm blanking on how the Snow White witch looked.
Danny, pull it up for us.
Yeah.
Let's get a gander at this.
About how you
horror.
described.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, it's the Snow White witch.
I was scared of.
Yeah,
I was like, Sleeping
that was
Beauty.
the one. What's the?
Is there a witch in Sleeping Beauty?
Is there? Let's see.
It's Maleficent.
Oh, yeah. She's kind of hot.
Yeah, Maleficent is arguably attractive,
Okay. So you were scared of an attractive witch. You like the ugly ones.
I think just all of them kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, the poison apple energy.
Snow White witch is definitely.
I always felt like for some reason, and maybe this was me and not necessarily Disney witches that were putting this. I always thought they were trying to harm children too, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It just felt like to me that was the energy they gave off.
The Wicked Witch of the West too.
Another
creepy one
she
that
scared the
me.
bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
That that music too always scared me as a kid.
The movie's just low key kind of creepy.
Honestly. Yeah, it is.
Especially the
flying
original
monkeys.
Yeah,
terrifying.
But anyways, Debbie didn't believe Marianne. She figured her daughter's imagination was just running wild. Frustrated, Marianne would crawl back into bed and attempt to go to sleep, but the conversations would continue on and off through the nights. Soon, Debbie also began experiencing strange things in the house, so it's starting to happen to her too. One day she heard the garage door opening and she knew Alan was at work and the children were at school, so she called one of the neighbors to help her check to see if someone was breaking into her garage. But no one was. And this would happen a few different times, and as always, no one was in the garage, so it's just randomly opening up. And, this was the 80s, so I don't really know what garage door openers looked like back then.
I think they did have
Did they have
an
motorized
electrical.
one?
I think it was
Yeah.
a motorized one, yeah.
So again, could just be an electrical malfunction, as she would claim, or something else was opening it. But then Debbie's nightmares began to get absolutely insane. We're not just talking regular nightmares. They were extremely violent and felt as if they were real. And as each night passed, they never seemed to go away. And it got to the point where she would get in bed and assume that as soon as she fell asleep, she would have another extremely intense, violent nightmare, which is scary. I mean, nobody likes violent nightmares? You have nightmares about being killed or?
Nothing that intense. All my nightmares are very like just stress. I call them stress dreams because I don't really know what they are. It's nothing like outwardly horrific happening. It's just something. I'm always in a really uncomfortable situation and something's going down, like very dramatically. But
is it like realistic stuff
yes,
going down?
It's always realistic.
From like your past experiences?
Yeah. It's like someone from high school shows up always. And it's just
always high
something-
school.
Yeah, it's always high school. And just something bad is happening. Can't really.
Yeah. Mine were, as a kid, was always being chased by somebody. Or like, I would have kind of a recurring one where I'd be chased by this like evil Rottweiler looking dog. And it would like hunt me down and I'd be like
Cujo.
running around outside. Yeah, exactly. And then as I've gotten older, it's been like natural disaster dreams of like, if I do have a nightmare, a natural disaster is going down and I'm trying to escape from it.
God,
I've had
that's
tsunami
scary.
dreams. I've had tons of tornado dreams, of course, but I mean, it's always some type of situation where I'm just trying to get my loved ones to safety. And like, I'm seeing this like looming natural disaster that's happening, but I don't really have some people have dreams of just straight up being like murdered.
Yeah. I've never
like
had
stabbed or shot which I've had a few of those over the years, but it's very few and far between.
When I was a kid, I did have a recurring nightmare of getting thrown down a spiral staircase, like the center of a spiral staircase where you just fall straight down. And then there was always like the Peter Pan crocodile or alligator at the bottom that always snatched me up. But it was one of those things, it's like right when you die, you wake up.
Yeah, funny how that works. Has anybody ever died in their dream and then went to the afterlife in their dream?
That would be crazy.
Can you imagine like you actually die, you feel like you die in your dream, and then you go and experience the afterlife. That'd be crazy.
And then you realize you're not going.
Then you realize. Then you wake up
downstairs.
Like, I went to hell last night. Damn. Yeah, it's weird how that works though. It seems like the majority of people, right when you're about to die or be killed, you wake up.
Yeah,
that's so weird how that works.
I wonder if it's our unconscious trying to protect us from whatever's beyond.
God.
But yeah, so night terrors, they're awful. They also just, if you can't get a good night's rest, you're not going to be having a good time when you're awake either. So it's a double whammy. But amidst all the strangeness growing in the Tallman household, Alan seemed to be the only one with no major issues, and he wasn't really experiencing anything else that the others were experiencing. He did have that little bit of back pain, but that had mostly gone away. And if we're being real, that might have just been moving furniture. Yeah.
I think we all get aches and pains after moving.
Same. So he figured he would, since he wasn't being afflicted, he would try to help the rest of his family out. So when the girls' bedtime came, Alan would go in their bedroom, lie on the floor near them until they fell asleep, just to make everything copacetic.
That's good dad right there.
Yeah, I like that. Then he would move over to Danny's room. Danny was a little older, so he fell asleep later. He would go over to his room and do the same thing. He just wanted to make sure, no strange activity, no funny business, no nothing. As he spent more time in both their bedrooms, he finally began hearing the noises that his children had complained of. At first, he thought maybe it's the boiler down in the basement making some weird noise, like the pipes are rattling or something. But when he checked on it, it was working as normal. He then hired an exterminator to check for any rodents inside the house, specifically the bedroom walls, but still, they found no trace of any rodents in there. Still, the scratching and tapping noises continued. Up to this point, Debbie and Alan had never considered that the supernatural might be at play. Not once, which I do find a little odd, because I would at least maybe joke about it in passing, like, ooh, what if it's a ghost? But no, maybe they're just very skeptical, practical people here that are just, it never even crossed their mind. It had to be something rational. So they just chalked it up to bad luck or some unexplained issues with the house that they really couldn't identify.
Which is weird because you would think that this is such a new house that you would be like, there's no way.
Yeah, how many problems could there be?
Right. I mean, I guess it's possible it's just a poorly built house. And obviously it happens where there's tons of issues right off the bat, which is unfortunate. But I don't know. I'm with you. I think I would be like, well, what is it then?
Yeah.
Right? We've already eliminated the obvious reasons for some of this activity. What else could it be?
Yeah, it's like the building inspector came, the exterminator guy came, the guy checked out the boiler. Like they're checking out everything, and
we've looked at everything we could possibly inspect and see. So what if it's something unseen?
Yeah.
Another app that I absolutely love is Acorns. Saving and investing can be super easy. You know, investing is a term that many of us don't really know that much about, to be honest. I know it took me a long time just to wrap my head around what investing means, how to do it responsibly, and Acorns really lets you get your feet wet in the investing world by investing your spare change on everyday transactions that you make. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing for your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with just your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals, then automatically invests your money for you. In addition to investing your spare change, Acorns has a full suite of other products and services that I think are amazing for especially the beginner investor. I mean, they've got a whole learning knowledge base where you can learn about the market, learn about the portfolios, and really make responsible decisions with your money. They even have banking. They have investing for retirement, for kids even. And I think it's just an absolutely awesome app for those who are looking to get into investing but don't know where to start. So head over to acorns.com/lightsout or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Again, that's acorns.com/lightsout. Check it out today. Client testimonial compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/lightsout.
Yeah, so they're still maybe they're in denial. But some time passed and Alan decided he needed to paint the basement. And since the family was growing and they were running out of space upstairs, this wasn't a huge house, they figured they would turn the basement maybe into a semi-livable area, maybe a man cave, with the shotgun rack above a minibar type vibe. And Alan got his supplies, he began painting the walls, and one day, Debbie interrupted him, called him up to the first floor, and he set his wet paintbrush down in the paint tray, then he went upstairs. When he returned, here's what he found, and this is actually Alan, in his own words, telling what he found down there.
And the brush was in the paint pail with the bristles sticking up right in the paint pail. I figured there was something strange why this happened, why the brush got into the paint pail, but I wouldn't accept that my house was haunted.
So there we go. We have verbal confirmation. He's not accepting that it's paranormal activity.
It took the paintbrush being upside down in the paint pail to be like, house is haunted.
And I can see, like, if you're systematically very cautious. Like, I know when my dad is fixing up doing house projects, he's very particular. He's a perfectionist. He would never have the paint handle in the paint can. So I can see how that might set somebody off. You're like, no, I know 100% sure I would never leave this here like this. So I could see it being a red flag for some people.
That's just interesting. I mean, what if Danny just ran downstairs and Yeah. But
totally possible.
That was the turning point for him. He's like, whoa, okay, maybe everything people have been complaining about is the paranormal.
Something odd's going on. But he grabbed some towels. He took the brush over to the utility sink to clean up. And out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a looming shadow across the basement. When he looked up, there was nothing there. He wrote it off as a trick of the mind. But something about the shadow gave him an uneasy feeling. He finished cleaning up and headed upstairs. He figured he'd put the man cave on hold for a little while, and he never said a word about this experience to Debbie. Alan later returned to his work in the basement a few weeks later without issue, but one day, and this is weird, he went downstairs, he noticed it was freezing cold and a strong draft hit him when he reached the bottom of the stairs. There shouldn't be any drafts in a basement. So he looked across the room and he noticed an entire basement window had been removed. So this wasn't a broken window. It was like one of those slider basement windows that sat toward the ceiling. And it just had been removed from the rough opening and placed on the floor.
Damn, dude. Oh my God.
Like, the window wasn't shattered. It was, the whole thing was just removed.
This is the point at which you set up a camera
Yeah,
and you start filming your house, because either you got somebody breaking into your house or you've got something very, very strong.
Yeah.
And, or just maybe the neighborhood kids are real good pranksters. I mean,
Yeah, and know how to remove a window from its rough opening. That's kind of incredible.
that's hard to do without people knowing.
Yeah, you'd have to remove the molding. I don't know. This was an unfinished basement, so maybe it was just put in there really shoddy.
And you just like
And
push
then
it.
Someone just pushed the damn thing.
Damn.
But yeah, after this, Debbie and Alan were 100% convinced that no, it wasn't paranormal still. It was a human that had been lurking around their house while they weren't looking. They thought it was a thief, but when they checked around the house, nothing had been stolen. So it can't be a thief. Nothing was out of place. Even Alan's collection of expensive hunting rifles were untouched. So why would someone just remove a basement window?
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, big question mark. So Debbie and Alan decided not to tell the rest of their family what was going on, but they did install a lock on the basement door just in case.
I never understand why, when families are experiencing a haunting or a paranormal activity, that they want to keep it all to themselves. Or like the husband won't tell the wife about what happened to him. Like, that's so weird and seems unrealistic to me.
Yeah, I would be telling.
I'd be like, yo,
my
babe,
significant-
guess what happened today?
Yeah, right.
I went downstairs and my paintbrush was upside down in my paint can.
And also the shadow figure in the corner of the basement.
Right.
Yeah.
You would think you would tell your spouse about that.
100%.
And I would probably be telling my kids, especially if I thought it was a human lurking around, to be careful
Hey,
that somebody removed our window, didn't take anything.
Yeah.
Somebody's clearly either stalking us or fucking with us.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
why wouldn't you tell your kids?
No,
Obviously, they're
100%.
young. You don't want to freak them out. But
I guess
like,
my eldest son, though, I would
Yeah.
be like, hey, just keep your eyes peeled for any weird things around the
yeah,
house.
watch your
Let me know.
sisters. Like,
Yeah,
there could
yeah.
be somebody in the neighborhood that's up to no good.
Right.
But no, it's like, let's keep it hush hush. Let's not tell anybody. And honestly, if you really think about it, I think most people, if they absolutely knew that it wasn't them that removed this window from the house, wouldn't you like want to know what happened? Like call the police
Yeah.
and just like file a report and be like, I don't know if it just like the wind blew it in or
Right.
what, but this is kind of weird, don't you think?
Something happened here. Could you guys maybe just check it out?
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Is there
we're
any
safe.
like other activity in the neighborhood? Has anybody else experienced this?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, very strange. And also, like, maybe they're in such strong denial that they're kind of like overcorrecting to where they're like, it's definitely not, it can't be paranormal. No way. So they're like overcorrecting to be like, no, it's someone just walking around and in our home, but they're not stealing things. I don't know.
Which is
This-
even scarier because it's like, what are they
it's
doing? then?
Scarier. I would rather have a ghost.
Are they going to murder you?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
like what the hell?
Terrifying.
I don't know. Just very strange. But another day, Debbie had to take Alan to the doctor. So Alan's mother came to watch the children for a few hours. And when they returned later that evening, Alan's mother was already waiting at the front door with her keys in her hand, ready to get the hell out of there. She barely said goodbye, got in the car, and quickly left the house. So this was kind of odd for her. You know, it was like, okay, were the kids just really misbehaved? What's going on? So Debbie called Alan's mother later, wondering if like something odd had happened in the house while she was there. And sure enough, her intuition was right. Alan's mother told her that after she had put the children to bed, she took a nap on the sofa in the living room, but something woke her up. She didn't know what exactly caused her to wake up. Maybe it was just a feeling or a feeling like she was being watched. And as she glanced over at the living room window, she saw a pair of green eyes with red pupils staring at her through the dark. Terrifying.
That is terrifying.
I'd want to get the hell out of there too. I
Yeah.
mean, if you really see something like that.
Also, some consistency, because I think, didn't the daughter say she
Yeah,
saw a witch with
witch.
red eyes?
Right.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. She thought she might have been dreaming, but after blinking a few times and rubbing her eyes, she looked back, and sure enough, whatever this thing was still there. She told Debbie she never wanted to return to the house. And as always, the Tallmans still didn't believe anything supernatural might have been at play. Debbie and Alan believed she had seen car headlights through the window and got confused. I mean, what?
Yeah, it's some deep denial here.
Where is green on headlights?
Yeah.
What car has green?
Or like bright red. I don't know.
Yeah, on the headlights? Like,
Maybe these are nightmare children, and the grandma's like, it's easier just to tell them that I saw a ghost and don't want to return
right.
than to tell them that their kids suck.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that.
Well, the Tallmans' denial continued. Even as their daughter, Marianne, kept having long conversations in the dark with no one there, they figured it was just an imaginary friend or she was sleep talking. One day, Debbie's mother stopped by to watch the kids for a while, and she was flicking through the channels on the TV in the living room, and Marianne decided to join her. For only a few seconds, as her grandmother was flicking between channels, Marianne witnessed a disturbing scene in a horror movie. She saw people sitting around a campfire when all of a sudden a creature with a pig head ran towards the fire and began screaming. From that point on, Marianne was terrified of fires and monsters in the dark. She even claimed she had witnessed several fires in the house, and they were being set by that witch with red eyes. Around Christmas of 1987, Danny also began complaining about an old hag with red eyes he kept seeing in his bedroom. It was always at night, and he described it as a dark cloud in the corner of the room. And from this dark cloud, a figure would emerge, and the old hag would approach him. Then she appeared to be glowing like a flame, and the hag would threaten to burn the house to the ground.
It does sound a little like our sleep paralysis episode.
It does.
The old hag coming from the corner or out of the closet and approaching you and just saying
red
weird
eyes and
stuff. Yeah.
A whole family experiencing sleep paralysis. Damn.
That would be crazy.
That's nuts. Or it's just the sleep paralysis demon that's lurking.
Yeah.
Debbie tried to calm him down, telling him that what he saw might have been an angel. Since she was
going way the other way.
Yeah, no. It's just an angel, honey. But Danny told her that the hag was far too ugly to be an angel, because there are no ugly angels, all right? Debbie and Alan finally sat down one night in private. They're like, all right, we probably should talk about this, right? We got to figure out what's going on in our home. It's just probably getting pretty annoying to them at this point.
Yeah.
That their kids are all terrified and seeing this witch lady in their room. And
it's like Debbie isn't getting sleep because she's having nightmares. The kids are constantly awake because they keep seeing these things. Yeah, that would get old real quick.
And up until now, Alan seemed to be pretty unaffected compared to the rest of the family, other than the couple little things he's noticed, but he's just kind of like, it could have been this or that. Allegedly, Alan might have provoked the entity at some point. Seeing that his wife and children were targeted, he became more frustrated. Their dream had been to quietly settle into their new home, but that clearly wasn't happening. So one day, he just started screaming at this entity, or whatever it was, to stop going after his family and come after me instead. After that, he admitted to Debbie that night that he had been in the garage and felt an invisible force pull a book out of his hand. So they did what most people do during a haunting. They decide, you know what, we've got something supernatural going on here. Let's get the pastor. So that's when they called their local pastor, Reverend Wayne Dobratz. Wayne did what most local pastors do during a haunting. He claimed an unholy demon had infested the house. Neither Debbie or Alan believed him, but they agreed for him to come by and bless the house as a precaution. We actually have a little snippet of Wayne talking about his experience.
They turned to their family pastor. He felt the presence of evil in the house and thought they might be the victims of the devil.
I'd known them about a year and a half when they called me to come and visit with them about what was going on in the house.
Is this normal? I mean,
I believe that my initial analysis of the entity being in the spiritual realm, the occult realm, the demonic, if you will, was accurate. And I still believe it's accurate.
Pretty strong belief there.
Wow.
Also, it's not the first time we've seen, a pastor claiming it's a demon. Where are you at?
Well, that's the go-to.
Yeah, it's always a demon.
Always a demon.
Yeah.
It can never be anything malevolent, you know?
It's always...
Or benevolent,
Yes,
sorry.
yeah.
It's never something benevolent. It's not a benevolent spirit of something. It's always malevolent. It's
Right.
always something demonic from hell, Satan himself.
Yeah.
So, and that's just, that's what he knows. So
Yeah. It's like...
it's hard to blame him. I mean, he's doing what his job is.
Right. And it's like the Warrens, they were Catholic, so a lot of their ghosts it was always oriented through kind of a Catholic lens. That's how it goes. But where are you at on this one so far?
I mean, there's something unexplained going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, there's so much activity that's going on and multiple people are seeing the same entity, it seems like. That's kind of strange. And yeah, I mean,
Do you think it could be a little mass hysteria?
it could be.
Because fact that like they're starting to see this hag with the red eyes, that's kind of what I thought, maybe that they're all on board with seeing the same
Mhm.
things now. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, could be. I do find it interesting that Debbie's mother also saw this entity as well.
Yeah, that's a good
So you
point.
wonder, is she seeing what the kids are seeing because what the kids are telling her? And that's just the first thing that came to her mind when she woke up. And she did confuse red lights maybe with this entity. I don't know. Yeah, very strange. It's just weird that Alan's not really having a whole lot. He's like, oh yeah, I felt something pull a book out of my hand, but he's not seeing this entity yet either.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the fence with this one. I think demon, possibly, but I think more so because it's like it doesn't seem that evil. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing
Yeah,
like
true.
super evil going on here. It's like little noises here, and so I don't know if you want to. If it's something paranormal, I don't think it's necessarily an evil entity at this
Yeah.
point, but
It's annoying for
Yeah.
sure, but yeah, nothing outright evil. But
it does make you wonder about the family that lived there prior,
yeah,
doesn't it?
supposedly there's not much out there that I know. I think the only info was that they had lived there for like 18 months or something. It's not that long.
You wonder what happened in those 18 months,
Right.
though.
Because that's not a long time. Is that just like a job change, or maybe is there something a little darker going on there? Because that is a very short time to own a home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, guys? It is hot outside. I think it was about like 92, 93 degrees in Denver the other day. And I am a hot sleeper, all right? And you know what? Your bedroom temp has such an effect on your sleep quality, especially me. I cannot sleep when it's too hot out. I just can't. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend these sheets. They're Miracle Made's bed sheets. These bed sheets are also inspired by NASA. They use silver-infused fabrics. Say what? Silver-infused? Sounds like witchcraft. It's science, baby. They're temperature-regulating sheets, so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Traditional bed sheets, get this, they can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. And this bacteria can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses. It's just nasty. So get some Miracle Made sheets. They offer a whole line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding sheets, pillowcases, and comforters, and it prevents up to 99.7% of bacteria growth. And I love this part of it. It requires up to 3 times less laundry. They have self-cooling properties for better sleep quality. They're self-cleaning, they're comfortable, and they're designed for your skin. I actually have some of these sheets and pillowcases, and I'm not lying, I sleep in these every night, and they're great. I love them. So go to trymiracle.com/lightsout to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, If you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo Lights Out at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/lightsout and use the code LIGHTSOUT to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/lightsout to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. But, like you were saying, Alan, where's he at with seeing these things? He seems like a very skeptical dude, but here we go. On January 7th, 1988, Alan returned home from work around 1 a.m. after a really long shift. But as he put his hand on the front door handle, he felt a massive gust of wind hit him. Even though the weather was relatively calm outside, the wind began howling, and it was a distinct howl that he would remember forever, and it came from the direction of the garage. We've already had a few instances in the garage, Debbie thinking that someone was opening the door, and I believe Alan was in the garage when the book was pulled out of his hand. He then heard a voice calling out to him saying, "Come here." And he froze in horror, and the voice even called out to him again. He took a few steps toward the voice. When he reached the garage door, which was open and overhead, he noticed a faint glow inside. He then saw flames growing as if the garage was combusting in front of him. And he backed away, and then he noticed a humanoid figure in the garage window standing there, staring at him. The figure, much like the other sightings, had glowing green eyes with red pupils. And after a short moment, the figure vanished.
So it's finally happened.
There you go. He finally
has
saw
seen the exact same description as
same.
Everybody else.
Confirmed. Alan ran to get a fire extinguisher, thinking, holy shit, my garage is on fire. And he went to go put out the flames, but when he returned to the garage door, everything was fine. Everything just had disappeared. He then rushed back inside and locked the deadbolt on the front door. After picking up his lunchbox from the floor, he stood up, and an invisible force yanked the lunchbox from his hand and hurled it across the living room.
No food for you.
Yeah.
God.
He ran down the hallway, and when he reached the bedroom, he recovered his breath and told Debbie what had just happened. And neither of them slept that night. I can't imagine the amount of sleep deprivation going on in this household.
Yeah, and another point, too. Clearly, the pastor didn't do anything.
Yeah, he blessed the house.
He blessed the house, and shit got worse.
Worse, yeah.
So,
good job, Wayne.
Yeah. Good job, Wayne. Clearly not equipped for this demon.
No.
So
yeah.
Just pissed it off more.
I wonder what denomination he is.
Lutheran.
Is it Lutheran?
He was from St. Stephen's Lutheran Church.
Oh, okay. Lutheran.
Which I don't know. That
not
doesn't really
equipped.
compute to me. Yeah. I'm like,
we need to get a Catholic in there. Come on.
Get the big guns in there.
Yeah.
Get Father Amort
Oh, shit. He would take care of it.
on the way.
So the next day, which is like what you're saying, it's odd, but the couple, they decided not to tell the children anything about what had happened. They said they didn't want to scare them more than they already were. I guess that's fair. Debbie and Alan also noticed that the activity rarely happened during the daytime. As long as the sun was up, they were safe. But at night, things seemed to get worse. Danny kept seeing the glowing hag in his bedroom. Debbie sometimes even heard him whimpering in his bedroom at night, saying, "Leave me alone." And the noises at night in the house kept escalating as well. Door handles would turn, windows would rattle. So by January 8th, a friend of Danny's visited the house after school, and he walked into the kitchen alone. He was shocked to find the refrigerator was tilted backward at a 45-degree angle, and the door was wide open. And later that day, the friend also told Alan that he had seen a glowing red light in the center of the garage. Not very consistent with what the other family members have seen, but who knows at this point. That night, Alan rested on the floor of the girls' bedroom like he always did every night until they fell asleep. He then heard the same howl of the wind from the day before that he said he would never forget. He sat up to get a better listen. Still in denial, He thought that the howling gust of wind might have been the furnace kicking on and the fan blowing air through the vents, but a strange fog then began to form along the bedroom floor. It grew thicker until it rose from the carpet beneath him, and the smoky fog then converged and formed a humanoid figure. It was the same figure he had seen before with the green eyes and red pupils, and in a low, rumbling voice, it told Alan, "You're dead." The figure,
Oh my God.
yeah, the figure then disappeared with a great flash. Here's Debbie, a little snippet from Debbie explaining what happened next.
When he came out of the bedroom, he wouldn't talk to me. His lips were blue. He was so white, you know. I tried to get him to tell me what happened, but all he did was stand there, and tears were running out of his eyes. And so I went to the phone and I called the pastor and I said, "You've got to come over here." I said, "Something happened and Alan's crying." I said, "And he won't tell me what happened."
When I arrived, Alan was very frightened. He was shaking. He was visibly shaken at what he had seen. Alan gave me no indication at all that he was in any way fabricating what he was telling me. And my sense of that was heightened by the fact that I've been with people before who had described things similar to what Alan was describing. And his fear and terror at what he had seen was very similar to what I had seen before.
Then Debbie woke all the children up, told them to pack a suitcase, and they all left the house. As they backed out of the driveway, Debbie thought she saw the flickering of fire inside the garage, but after she blinked, it was gone.
I think at this point, this is when you call the authorities.
Yeah. Still no police report or anything.
No. I mean, when you're seeing a humanoid figure manifest out of fog
And threatening your life.
Threatening your life. Might be good to have somebody else come in other than the pastor who's just reinforcing everything that's happening.
Yeah.
To get they need a second opinion, I think.
Agreed.
At this point. But the next day, the family returned to the house along with their pastor, Wayne. He blessed the house again and also suggested,
first time.
Yeah. I really would like to know what he said. Like, bless this house. Like, I'm sure he has a lot of experience in demonic infestation. But he also suggested that if they're going to stay there, they should play church music throughout the night. Yeah, that's great. Then nobody will sleep.
Yeah.
Amaze just all night. Praise. How sweet. Yeah.
Our God is an awesome God, he reigns.
Oh, you know that one? That's a banger right there. Oh man, I've never heard that advice before.
No, not once.
In any haunting episode ever, did the pastor say, "Just play worship music all night, you'll be fine"?
Maybe he's just trying to get the mood up.
Yeah,
he's trying to get the energy up in the house. Maybe that's.
It's like maybe that'll just be comforting to them if they hear that playing.
Yeah.
So that's what family did. They did their usual routine and they all went to sleep with church music playing. And they claimed they had never had a more peaceful night in the house since they first moved there. Interesting.
It worked.
Just play some worship music. You hear that out there? If you ever have a haunting, just play some worship music. Does the trick. By the next morning, the sun rose and everything was calm and peaceful. The birds tweeting outside, the smell of coffee coming from the kitchen, the bacon sizzling in the pan. Perfect morning. But it wouldn't last, unfortunately. When Alan went to work the next day, he got his nephew Jonathan to stay at the house to keep an eye on things. Alan called the home phone every hour on the dot to make sure everything was okay. And every hour, Jonathan reported that there were no issues. For a brief moment, he thought maybe the horror was over. But guess what? After sundown, the chaos began again. Debbie would later call this the worst night of her life.
Whoa, that's a big claim.
Damn. It all began around 8 p.m. when Debbie started getting her daughters ready for bed. Alan was usually the one to lie on the floor in their daughter's bedroom until they fell asleep. Knowing what had happened before with Alan, Debbie was too afraid, so she asked Jonathan, and he agreed. In the meantime, Debbie went to finish up some house chores, and a few minutes passed. Then she heard Jonathan scream in a panic from the bedroom. begging for Debbie to come and look. But before she went over to the bedroom, she ran to the home phone, speed dialed the pastor, and said, "What the fuck, man? It's still going on." And of course, this guy sent her to voicemail, or his phone was just off because she could not get through to him.
I love how it's always the pastor. Call the police.
Yeah.
It might be an intruder
You
in
now
the home.
have brought another person in, and they're experiencing this shit.
God.
Call 911, not Pastor Wayne, who
hasn't
clearly
helped.
no clue what he's doing. Just trying to be a comforting man.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably a nice guy.
trying.
He's trying. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to be a good shepherd.
But if I call a plumber, I don't want him to be nice and comforting. I want the plumber to fix the problem,
Right.
you know?
I don't want him to suggest I play music and the leak will go away. You know, I want him to fix the pipe. All right.
Exactly.
From the bedroom, she could hear all the children screaming that they could see it, whatever it was. Debbie was still too afraid to approach the bedroom. And I'm like, dude, if you're a parent, you're busting.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to
Guns
sucker punch
blazing. Yeah.
that witch right
We're
in the face.
suplexing
Yeah,
somebody.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going in there, grabbing my kids, and we're going in the car. And we're leaving that bitch.
Exactly.
We're going to grandma's house.
Yup.
From down the hall, she asked Jonathan what was going on. Hey, Jonathan's screaming.
Just relay.
Hey, man, what's going on in there? And he emerged in the hallway and said, "It was in the bedroom." It, the clown at this point?
Yeah,
Like, my
it's
God.
Pennywise.
It's Pennywise. Jesus. Debbie ordered Jonathan to get the kids, and she grabbed their coats. She packed everyone back into the car and slammed on the accelerator and reversed down the driveway. Skirting out of the driveway. After making it to the street, she threw the car in a drive and took off. She then heard Danny say, quote, "Mom, it's still looking at us through the window." But Mom was like, "I ain't looking." And they just took off.
I love it. She's like, "I'm good."
I'm good.
Yeah.
Gunning it like, I wonder what the neighbors are thinking at this point. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Everybody run.
Tires squealing,
Yeah.
like kids screaming.
I'm picturing like a Volkswagen hatchback.
Yeah.
Like just peeling it down off the street.
Debbie then drove everybody to Alan's workplace, and Jonathan told them what had happened. His story sounded almost identical to what Alan had experienced the other night with the smoky fog that took the shape of a humanoid with green eyes and red pupils. When they all drove back to the house to observe it from the street in the safety of their cars, Debbie noticed that all the house lights were on, even though she had shut most of them off when leaving. This was actually the last time the Tallmans ever returned to the house. They're like, it's hopeless.
Yeah. Whatever is going on in this house, it's probably for the best that they don't
Yeah.
go back. They need some change here.
They need a good night's rest.
They need a good night's rest. They needed to call the police earlier. And
Get a priest in there.
I was going to say, get a Catholic in there. Yeah.
Somebody with more knowledge on the demons, man.
Yep. But, word spread pretty quick. This is a small town, and this small 3-bedroom family home on Larrabee Street kind of became the talk of the town. The family did their best to stay anonymous, but locals knew whoever had lived there had fled the home because of the paranormal activity. Local media soon swarmed, but the Tallmans refused any interviews. So really, this just kind of pumped up the rumor mill. They're like, if the family's not going to do interviews, we're just going to start making stuff up. So around this time, various news sources reported that blood was running down the walls of the home. A snowplow had animated and tried to run people over. And the house was a portal to hell itself. And some people believe that this house was apparently built on a Native American burial ground, but none of this was true. These were just rumors. Local police soon investigated the case, and they were first contacted by a worried neighbor right after seeing the Tallmans flee the house late at night. There's probably a lot of screaming going on, a lot of loud noises, people fleeing a house. It's quite noticeable. So after their initial investigation, police didn't really believe anything paranormal had been going on. But after interviewing the Tallmans, police told news media that the family truly believed there was something supernatural at the house. So the police were like, look, we don't personally have any reason to believe that there was something paranormal, but we know for sure that the family that lived there believes there was something supernatural. Police Chief Doug Glemon brought 2 other officers and a minister with them to inspect the home. Still can't confirm, no Catholics here. They're bringing just some...
Was it Pastor Wayne?
Yeah, they might bring it back. We brought him back.
The expert back.
They searched the house for recorders, projection devices, any other evidence of a hoax or a prank, but they didn't find any. Chief Glemon then brought in Dr. Don Mueller, the associate professor of social welfare at UW Milwaukee, to investigate the home. He brought a parapsychologist, Carl Schultz, and a retired professor and paranormal investigator named Walter Uphoff with him. What they determined is not clear. I tried to find exactly what they had found, but apparently Dr. Don Mueller later held several seminars about his findings. What those findings were exactly aren't clear, but a few of his original slides of photographs he took in the home still exist. And, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll get to see some of these photos that we still have today, which is awesome. Usually with kind of more obscure cases, there's
virtually nothing.
Yeah.
But this does prove that the police were out there. They were investigating this home, taking a look. In the aftermath, many skeptics claimed that the Tallmans were just crazy drunks who wanted money for their story. But it was clear they didn't want media attention after the story hit the news. Even in the Unsolved Mysteries episode, which we've been playing a few clips from, they're all like blacked out in it.
Yeah, they're silhouetted, and we'll get into like they did have conditions for doing that episode because they really didn't want any part of it.
Which, if you're somebody who's seeking fame and fortune from your story, why are you going anonymous?
Exactly.
Unless that's part of the story, part of the hype around
the mystique.
Yeah. Mystique, I don't know. Seeing that the family was in distress, a local police officer was kind enough to take on the responsibility of speaking to the press on behalf of the family. And local police even made sure that the Tallmans had a place to stay at local motels while others helped them move their things out of the house. Police also made sure the press didn't harass them. So we've got, some good old boys here at the department that are doing right by the community. Yeah. Helping this family out. Apparently, Debbie was even asked if she wanted to appear on the Oprah Winfrey Show, but she declined. The family also was offered a large sum of money from an unnamed tabloid, but Debbie and Alan declined, claiming they didn't want to make money off their children's misfortune. So I think that counts for something.
It's fair, yeah.
It's, especially if you're in a tight spot, you need money, and, they're like, no, we don't want to capitalize off of in their experiences trauma at this point.
Right.
At the time, no one knew exactly what had caused the paranormal activity, but in hindsight, many pointed out that secondhand bunk beds that they had brought into the home were possibly to blame. They could have been cursed, and since the Tallmans had bought them secondhand, their history is still very much a mystery, which just goes back to my point at the beginning. Who's cursing bunk beds?
Yeah.
Oh God. The Tallman story later aired on October 26, 1988 during the Halloween episode of Unsolved Mysteries. It had been filmed on location inside the family's home.
That's pretty ballsy. Going back.
And they agreed to share their story with television show under 3 conditions, though. They didn't want their faces shown, their children's names would be protected under aliases, and all reenactments of the experiences were done by actors. Which I'm pretty sure most Unsolved Mysteries episodes are done by actors. So.
Yeah, sometimes they do have family. I've seen some where it's like, oh, that's the same person they're interviewing. And it makes me double.
In the reenactment?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen some. And I'm like, wait, is that the actor that they're also doing the interviews? But then I'm like, oh no, that's the family member. Yeah.
Well, this segment became one of Unsolved Mysteries' most iconic stories. And since the episode's release on streaming platforms, the Tallman House segment has not been included. During a Reddit AMA in 2017, Unsolved Mysteries creators Terry Dunn Muir and John Cosgrove addressed the issue of missing stories. They wrote, quote, We have a legal staff that keeps track of the cases and makes sure that we do not infringe on anyone's rights. Sometimes a statute of limitations on a case is passed. We always try to be as respectful as we can be to the people who are featured in the segments. So if you want to find the Tallman segment, you'll have to find an out-of-print DVD of Unsolved Mysteries Ghosts, or do a little digging on the internet, and it's on YouTube as well.
It is. The whole thing.
The whole thing's
there,
on YouTube.
It's only like
11 minutes, I
Yeah,
think.
it's pretty short, but it's there.
The Tallman story has also been told in detail in the story Something Evil on Larrabee Street in the book Haunted Heritage by Michael Norman and Beth Scott. The authors did not believe the paranormal energy emanated from the bunk beds like many do, but they do believe that the house was built on burial grounds, which has never been proven. Just a theory at this point.
Yeah.
On February 19th, 1988, about a month after the Tallmans abandoned the home, news reports claimed that the family had destroyed and buried the bunk beds in an unknown location, and the home went up for sale. So that tells you that they believed the bunk beds were the source of this evil they were experiencing.
And I also think if you go through something like that and people are like, hey, you might want to try this out, and I would be like 100%. I'm desperate.
Right.
They would probably, do whatever they could.
Because clearly people are telling them that it's possible these bunk beds.
Yeah.
So they had their house up for sale, and they ended up signing over the title and relinquished all equity in the house. And they ended up losing about $3,000 in the deal. At that point, they were just happy to be rid of the home once and for all.
That's another big tell.
Right.
They were willing to take a financial hit on that house just to get the hell out of there.
Why do that if it's all bullshit or a
Right.
hoax or something? But a new family eventually moved in and claimed that they experienced no unusual activity in the house. So was it the house or something in the house that was causing the activity? They got the bunk beds out.
Yep.
So maybe it was the bunk beds. The Tallmans then planned to move to Beaver Dam and start over. And Debbie was quoted by a newspaper saying, "I think it's going to be a long time before things get back to normal. I still cannot sit at home at night and not be afraid of the dark." And as far as we know, the Tallmans have not experienced anything paranormal since they lived in that house on Larrabee Street. So it ended. Thank God.
Yeah, seriously. Whatever it was, thank God. That whole story seems like terror back to back.
So what do you think's going on here?
I mean, you know me. I'm more skeptical.
So from a skeptic's perspective, what is the most likely scenario?
I kind of buy into a dysfunctional family. We're not getting the whole story, and what we are getting is obviously through the perspective of the family members, or of the parents, I should say, within a dysfunctional family. I don't fully believe that they're just like some of the skeptics were just like, oh, they're just drunks and they're crazy. I do think alcohol might have been a contributing factor though into this, because even they admitted in that story, early on that Alan was struggling with binge drinking. So I think there's probably, it's a toxic household. And early on, they were also saying how they noticed people visited them at first, and then people started to peter out and they didn't want to come by anymore, even when there was nothing like outright paranormal happening. So to me, that seems like, if you're reading between the lines, if I had to guess, I would be, there's something not right in this family. There might be some toxicity. Maybe Alan's drinking is contributing to a lot of issues here, and the children are maybe coping with this, or there's some like sort of hysteria where it's like, oh, well, Marianne saw a hag with red eyes in her bedroom. Well, yeah, I'm also experiencing stuff in my bedroom, and it just starts to spread into these weird stories because no one knows maybe how to compartmentalize stuff. But that's my guess. As far as like an actual paranormal thing, there's certainly things we can't explain. There's either just not enough information, or there is something supernatural going on. Like the window being removed, I get hung up on that. Like, how the hell does just a window get removed from a rough opening. That
Maybe something that happens in a drunken stupor, possibly, or he's like working on it and accidentally pushed it out, forgot that he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because drinking is mentioned, I think that's something that you do have to keep in mind. And binge drinking was even mentioned. So it's like, how long did that go on for? He also had a lot of pain. Was there other substances involved? So in that could, all of those things, and I think your analysis around that there's more to the family story would also line up for why they want to be anonymous, and possibly why they would promote this story as maybe a cover up to what's really going on inside the home.
That's,
you know what I mean?
point.
Like, it's far easier to blame all this on something paranormal when maybe it's just, you know, a bunch of incidents happen inside the home, and or maybe they're telling their kids that this is what the issue is, and they're reinforcing this belief. And
so it's a cover up.
A cover up is possible here. I feel like, but again, this is just purely theorizing. We have no evidence to back this up, but just taking with the little information that we have, that is a possibility. And I think it'd be interesting to have them all sit down and speak with like a psychologist or a psychiatrist or something, and like somebody trained in mental health, and get a full evaluation from them on all of their mental states. Because you brought up even like mass hysteria, you know what I mean? So there could be something weird like that going on, where they're all kind of slowly experiencing the same you know, delusion and things like that. Yeah, I think that's a very possible theory. That's
my shot at what could possibly be going on. That is not a supernatural problem. That's kind of my thoughts on it, especially also now that I'm thinking back on it, the grandmother, when the mother, Debbie, finally came back after she had given birth to Sarah, and Debbie's just like, yeah, there's just like really bad energy in this house. I don't like being here. And you could chalk that up to something supernatural. But like I said, if you start reading between the lines, is it she was stuck at this house while Alan was like working and then coming home and drinking a bunch? And like, you know, is it because she's in this dysfunctional household that's making her feel uncomfortable and ill and not wanting to come back, you know?
Yeah, especially for me, it's always interesting when another family moves in to the same place that just had fog coming from the HVAC system. That's forming into this witch-like hag.
Yeah.
And they experience nothing.
Yeah.
Because like, to me, if this house is truly haunted and it's, you know, on burial grounds or something like that, you would expect the activity to not just stop when the family moves out.
Right.
So to me, that's very weird. And I think if you do, the only paranormal theory that is even plausible, in my opinion, is the bunk beds were cursed.
Yeah.
But as far as what I understand about cursed objects is that in order for it to be cursed at all, it has to harm someone. So this is a just wild out there theory, but maybe these bunk beds were at a secondhand store because the previous family that had them, a child maybe fell off of them or died as a result of using these bunk beds. Maybe they fell apart, then they like repaired them and resold them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that would, you know, like in the realm of like cursed objects, I don't know if that would be enough for that to manifest the amount of crazy paranormal activity that this family claim they experience.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like,
and it's
there's something else.
It's like extending beyond, like it might just be a coincidence or not that the bunk beds were introduced in the home and then when they destroyed it, everything was fine. But also, I don't know, with cursed objects, it's like people who aren't even really interacting. Is it just the fact that it's in the home and that's all it takes for this amount of shit to go down? Is that how? Because like usually cursed objects and the ones that we were covering, I remember it's like you're like directly interacting with this object.
Yeah.
Typically on a day-to-day basis or something like that. Like it's a very personal thing that you're using. It's not just like it's just nearby and terrible things are going on, you know?
Well, and when you look at, like, if you look up a list of cursed objects in the world, it's usually something that has far more historical significance than some 2x4s put together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's nothing significant about this bunk beds from the pictures. It just looks like a standard plain
cheap
wooden
bunk
bed. And for something cursed to manifest this much evil and craziness, I just feel like the bunk beds don't have it. And so that really leaves you with not a lot to consider after.
If we wanted to follow this, it would be like, okay, we would go back to the store, the secondhand store where we bought those bunk beds. We would try and track down who sold it to the secondhand
Figure
store.
Out the story behind it.
Try and find the history of this cursed object. Because you're right. Usually cursed objects, they have this history that you can trace back to all the previous owners who also had terrible experiences. So,
and they're usually something more personal to somebody. They're a box, they're a doll, they're some type of jewelry. You know what I mean? It's usually something, a statue or something. It's not usually.
It's like a relic or something.
My toaster's cursed, man. It always burns my bagels. You know what I mean? It's usually not like a everyday object or appliance. Usually, it's something a little bit more significant that's got, it was significant to the person that cursed it, or there's some type of historical significance to it that, something happens with it. It's, something dark, you know what I mean? But to me, it just seems the likeliness of this bunk bed having this like dark history. What is it like? It's killed numerous kids because it just can't stay together.
Just
like it makes no sense.
Kids,
So that's where I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna be skeptical with this one.
Yeah, that's the big fat question mark, though. Is like, where did this bunk bed come from? We need more information on it.
I think there's more going on within this family than's been released, and I think possibly this story could have been used to cover up things that were going on inside the home.
Yeah,
to make it seem like it was this whole other thing. But again, police investigated it. There's nothing that they found, and again, it's like, how are you going to prove that a hag manifests itself
out of smoke,
right? Like impossible.
Right.
And they never got any evidence of it. They never filmed anything. They never, so it's, and everything too would be easy to explain away, but could very well have just been them doing things.
Yeah.
The window could have been him doing something. The paintbrush could have been him doing it.
Yeah. Now that you were bringing up the window, maybe he was inebriated and he kind of forgot that. That could also be the paintbrush. If you're drunk, you accidentally tipped the paintbrush in the bucket. So, yeah.
And then they're kind of just creating this story along the way. And I hope they're not telling their kids that this is real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's sad about it, is that the kids are obviously being affected by this in a negative way and scared. And that's the true horror here, I think, is what these kids are going through. And I don't know. I'm glad that it seems like they've moved on and, life got a lot better. But yeah, I guess we'll never know what really happened on Larrabee Street.
Yeah. A lot of questions on this.
Seems like the house is completely fine now. So thank God they buried those cursed bunk beds out.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy if that's what it was.
Yeah. That house is still there, by the way. You go check it out. Still looks the same too.
Yeah.
When it was first built.
Wonder if anything's happened since then in the last 50 years almost. Be interesting to hear. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on this one. What do you think is the cause behind all of this absolutely insane paranormal? If this is real, this is the craziest
terrifying
shit that I think we've ever covered before. Oh my God. I think we'd all be terrified if we saw a dark figure in a room with red pupils and green eyes and
trying to burn the house down. Yeah.
Telling you that they're going to kill you and stuff.
Right.
That's terrifying. So yeah, we want to know your thoughts, but if you enjoyed this episode of Lights Out, do us a favor. Come on. We're working hard over here. We're coming at you with the cream of the crop content here. We'd love for you to just hit that subscribe button for us if you're watching on YouTube. It does really help us out. We're trying to hit that 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're about to hit 470, which is great.
Yeah.
But if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or, watching the show on Spotify as well, make sure you hit follow or subscribe over there as well. We really appreciate it. But we'll catch you guys next time with another one. Until then, lights out, everybody.